I understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis and catastrophe for you and for CNN. Where's the $22 billion? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Joe Biden just spent it, and now it's gone.
Hey, we need another agency next to NASA. So
NASA can't fly anything. The only people putting stuff into the space orbit with any real poise and consistency is Elon. Who is Elon Musk, and how does he relate to the Doge team? We have a declaration that was filed in the District of Columbia, a case involving multiple blue states suing Elon Musk. This was taking place in Judge Chutkan's courtroom, and we're trying to figure out what the Democrats' real objection is. They're saying Elon should be appointed, but he doesn't really run an agency. And they say Elon shouldn't be accessing data, and he's not doing that at all. And he shouldn't be making these decisions. He doesn't have the power to do it, and he's not. He's just kind of communicating about things, and other people who do have the power are making those decisions. And so we're asking, what is Elon? Who is he? Where does he get his source power from? Well, the DOJ is giving us some clarity on this. This came in from the DOJ, the Special Counsel's Office, U.S. Department of Justice. Joshua Gardner sent this into the court. Said, all right, Judge, during today's hearing, the court asked counsel for Trump and Elon for further information regarding the following: whether any federal employee terminations took place at the end of last week, any future plans by the non-defendants identified in the state's TRO to create widespread layoffs, and more. Now, we're aware that a select set of agencies did in fact terminate a number of employees at the end of last week, but we cannot make any programmatic representation as to how each of the 7 non-defendants may go about personnel actions in the next 2 weeks. So the judge says, how many other people are you going to fire? They said, we don't know, and we're not going to tell you because they're not being sued. But as attached, and the declaration from Joshua Fisher explains that we'll read, Elon Musk, quote, has no actual or formal authority to make government decisions himself, taking it right off the table, including personnel decisions at individual agencies. He's like a consultant. He's helping people decide what to do, and they're making the decisions. He is an employee of the White House office, okay? Not USDS Doge, not the Doge Temporary Service Organization. He's not in Doge. And he only has the ability to advise the president or to communicate the president's directives like other senior White House officials. And moreover, Trump and Elon are not aware of any source of legal authority granting the USDS or the Doge service the power to order personnel actions at any of the listed agencies above. So Doge is also following the Doge rules, and the Doge rules say that they can't fire anybody. So they're not. Neither of the president's orders regarding Doge contemplate, much less furnish, any such authority. They're all saying, here, they're exceeding their power. No, they're not. It's literally in writing. They're not making the firing decisions. They're just looking at the data and advising. So that got sent into the court. Here's what the actual declaration says. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Democrats retool to get around this. I think they're going to say that in practice, he's exercising power that is akin to an agency or something like that. And so there should be an office that's created, but they'll tell us this is not any different than any other advisors that other presidents have had. The problem is their prior advisors were just terrible. They sucked at everything. This new advisor's just like really, really good at his job. And so like, wow, he's doing a bunch of stuff that's like illegal. It's like when you're out there, you're playing a video game and you're playing somebody who's very good at it. You're like, it looks like they're cheating. You're like, what are you even doing? I didn't even press a button and I'm dead. What? That's because they're better than you. It doesn't mean they're doing something illegal or cheating. They're just better than you. So I, Joshua Fisher, wrote this. I declare under penalty of perjury the following. I make these statements with personal knowledge or knowledge obtained in the course of my official duties. He says, I am the director of the Office of Administration. I've held that position since January 20th, 2025, coming in on the Trump train. In that capacity, I am personally involved in the appointment of special government employees. I have personal knowledge of Mr. Elon Musk's employment status with the federal government. Mr. Musk is an employee of the White House office. He holds that position as a non-career special government employee in the White House. Now, in that job, Mr. Musk is a senior advisor to the president. It is not uncommon for the president to have senior advisors who are special government employees. For instance, Anita Dunn was an influential senior advisor to President Biden while serving as a special government employee. So Elon is just like Anita Dunn, except better in every measurable characteristic exponentially. So she did it. I'm sorry you picked Anita to be your advisor. She didn't do much for you, but we got Elon now. So just pick better players for your team. In his role as senior advisor to the president, Mr. Musk has no greater authority than any other White House senior advisor. Like other senior White House advisors, Mr. Musk has no actual or formal authority to make government decisions himself. Mr. Musk can only advise the president and communicate the president's directives. Oh, I love it. Now, the Doge service is a component of the executive office of the president. You guys can org chart this out if you want to, but it's illegal. The Doge temporary organization is within Doge. Both are separate from the White House office. Mr. Musk is an employee of the White House office. He's not an employee of Doge or the Doge temp. And Mr. Musk is not the Doge administrator. So sue whatever you want. He's not even working for Doge. He basically has nothing to do officially with Doge other than with communicating to them as a separate entity and then communicating with the president. Not any different than what a chief of staff would do to facilitate things getting done in the executive office. And although Jill Biden was not a special government employee, Hunter Biden was not a special government employee. They were in there. They were on foreign trips. They were involved in all sorts of decision making. Some people saying that Hunter may have facilitated the pardons of the Biden family. So this happens, right? The president can bring on senior advisors. Elon just happens to be very, very good and effective. And he's communicating exceptionally well with the Doge team. All of it is constitutional. And the Democrats have a response to this and come up with what they can do to fight back. As it stands, all they're doing, really, the judges are kind of whining and complaining in court. Kyle Cheney from Politico got his hands on some transcripts here. He said there's a pretty serious exchange here between another judge, Judge Reyes, and a DOJ attorney on pronouns. Here is what this conversation sounded like in court. It says, Reyes, the judge says, all right, prosecutor, DOJ person, can we agree that the greatest fighting force is not going to be impacted in any way by less than 1% of the soldiers using a different pronoun than others might want to call them? This is a judge in court. Judge, no, I can't agree with that here. Okay, like 1%, that's like, it's kind of a big deal. Judge says, totally inappropriately, like arguing for this. Well, would you agree with me that if our military is negatively impacted in any kind of way, that matters, right? We all have a lot bigger problems than the pronouns we use, says this judge. We have a military that is incompetent. Any common sense, rational human being knows that it doesn't, like the pronouns, like doesn't impact anything. Says it's a pretext. It's frankly ridiculous, says this judge. If you want to get me an officer of the U.S. military who is willing to get on the stand and say that because of pronoun usage, the U.S. military is less prepared because of pronoun usage, I will be the first to give you a box of cigars. All right, any service members out there who might opine on that? Maybe it does matter, probably a lot. She says, you know, the order from President Trump calls an entire category of people dishonest, dishonorable, undisciplined, immodest, who lack integrity. You know, people who have taken an oath to defend this country, people who've been under fire, people who've received medals for taking fire for this country. I want to know from the government whether that language expresses animus. Does that express animus? Ranting about this order. Attorney for the DOJ says, well, not in any constitutional... I'm not asking about the Constitution. I don't care about that. I'm asking in a common sense way. You know, this is a policy from the President of the United States that's affecting thousands of people. To call an entire group of people, you know, lying, dishonest people who are undisciplined, immodest, and have no integrity, how is that anything other than showing animus? He says, I don't have an answer for you, Judge. Just continue on your little screen here. That's fine. You don't have an answer. You just don't want to give it. People can make solid arguments as to why some or even most transgender people shouldn't be in the military, but we're dealing with unadulterated animus here. We're dealing with the President of the United States, dealing with a group of people serving their country, calling them liars. And then she went on some more ranty raids. Okay, so that's what these judges are doing in DC. No wonder they don't want us to have this stuff on video. So here was Stephen Miller, representative of the Trump administration, on with Brianna Kellar of CNN, having an exchange with her about what Doge actually does, how it works, breaking down how the Constitution functions for the anchors over at CNN.
Chief of Staff for Policy. Stephen, thank you so much for taking time for us. So who is in charge of Doge?
The President of the United States.
He's the administrator of Doge?
No, the Doge is what was formerly U.S. Digital Services. It's an agency of the federal government that reports into the Executive Office of the President, which reports to the President of the United States.
Okay.
The way that Article 2 works is the President wins an election, and then he appoints staff, including myself, including Mike Waltz, including Susie Wiles,
yes,
including Elon Musk, and those staff report to him.
Okay, well aware. So Elon Musk, a week ago, answered a question about transparency at Doge. This is how he spoke about Doge.
Well, we actually are trying to be as transparent as possible. In fact, we post our actions to the Doge handle on X and to the Doge website. So all of our actions are maximally transparent.
But you hear him there. We post our actions. All of our actions are maximally transparent. Does Elon Musk know he's not in charge of Doge?
Again, the president runs the government. Then the president appoints advisors, including Elon, including myself, including all the other staff here at the White House. And then those staff, in turn, execute the president's commands and directions to all the agencies of the federal government. This is how democracy works, something that we treasure in America. The whole American people go to the ballot box, they elect the president appoints staff, the staff then administer his orders and directives across the whole U.S. government.
Okay, Stephen, I get that, but this is important because we want to talk about who's making the decisions here. There were 300 employees, the National Nuclear Security Administration, you know about this. They were fired. The agency had to rescind those terminations because these were employees who were critical to maintaining the nation's nuclear stockpile. So then who is it making those decisions of which federal employees are terminated?
Well, in that case, the Secretary of Energy would be the one. So what you're describing with the cuts in the Department of Energy, those are directed by the Senate-confirmed Secretary of Energy.
Okay, so that was the Secretary of Energy's mistake.
Well, I wouldn't use the term mistake. I would say that it's pretty standard when you're downsizing government. You make cuts, you assess those cuts, you see who needs to be rehired, who needs to be kept, who needs to be
That's not what happened here, though, Stephen. You know that. They were rescinded.
Things.
These aren't normal things.
I understand that even a temporary interruption in federal employment is a great crisis and catastrophe for you and for CNN. What the American people see is a government that is finally delivering a promise of accountability under President Trump. You want to have a conversation about transparency. Let me ask you a question. Do you have any idea where the $22 billion that the Department of Health and Human Services provided to illegal aliens under Joe Biden is right now? $22 billion with the B. That's enough to provide a free house to every homeless veteran in America. Where's the $22 billion? I don't know. You don't know. Nobody knows. Joe Biden just spent it, and now it's gone. Transparency begins with having an accounting of every federal dollar is spent. And God bless President Trump for leading this effort.
Stephen, it seems like the crisis here had to do with the nation's nuclear stockpile. And for these particular federal workers, which I'm not, so this isn't my personal crisis, military members of the Guard
I
and
don't
the
think
Reserve.
it's a crisis,
well,
and you don't think it's well. Hold on. I don't think it's a crisis,
Stephen,
and you don't think it's a crisis. Then
why are you asking about it?
Military-
Yeah, because they're just trying to smear Elon and the White House, and they're trying to drive a wedge, right? This is a common thing in politics, is they try to drive wedges between people and issues and administrations, and they want Trump and Elon to be at each other's throats. Obviously, that's not happening. But this was an interesting one. Kyle Becker flagged this for us, and you can see this person, we played a clip of these people earlier this week, and this woman apparently is not at all who she says she is. Here was this exchange over from ABC.
But Elon Musk's influence is sweeping throughout the administration. It was late last week that the Doge team showed up at USAID offices in Washington and demanded access.
That sign's down now.
USAID
Bye.
employee Christina Dry described the scene.
Doge was in the building. We took down our pride flags. I took out any books I felt would be incriminating. No one was talking. We heard they started taking transcripts automatically of all of our Google Meets. They unplugged the news in the little kitchen galleys. It didn't feel good. And then Saturday, all of the websites went down, and then I lost complete access to my computer.
Oh, bummer. So everything, even their Google Meets. How fun is that? So this woman, right, you can see it even says contractor USAID. They had her on with CBS the other day on 60 Minutes, and they had her saying like she was an employee, like we're all going to die. We don't know where our paychecks are coming from. My kids are going to starve to death. There's going to be a chaotic shutdown. Turns out she was actually a consultant, right? Not actually an employee. So CBS seems like they may have oversold that one for us when they were presenting that. But they also got this guy, Norm Eisen, one of the main architects of the Lawfare against Trump, historically brought impeachments against him, tried to rig things with Adam Schiff, one of the worst in the country, in my opinion. And he is also behind several new lawsuits against Trump seeking TROs. He's representing a bunch of Jane Does who are government employees in one lawsuit, and he's representing another set of FBI agent John Does in another lawsuit. Both lawsuits brought by his 501c3 nonprofit organizations to wage war against Trump. So he showed up on Jen Psaki's #1 hit show on MSNBC, and here's what they talked about.
This is the latest concerning element, and we've gone to court again and again at State Democracy Defenders Fund, filing the very first lawsuit suit saying Doge was illegal, getting an order from the court blocking Mr. Musk and Doge out of the Treasury's Bureau of Financial Systems, those very extensive databases.
And then the judge walked that back and opened up access to it because the Treasury's allowed to see it.
With payments made across the country. And now they're trying to get a hold of IRS and Social Security data. There's no purpose to it. We're not going to allow it. We're going to go to court and stop it.
Yeah, well, they're not doing so hot right now. A lot of those TROs were being walked back, and we saw 2 major victories today out of the DC circuit. So here, the Tennessee Holler clipped this one for us. Here was this dude explaining how 58 top officials got fired within 1 hour. How epic.
President Trump has said, quote, billions of dollars have been stolen. The whole thing is a fraud.
It's utter nonsense. The most accountable aid agency in the world is USAID. I've written actually widely on this subject.
Yeah, so they're very accountable. We get the point. Yeah, right. We're seeing what's ultimately happening there. The View ladies were also having conversations about this today. And I think Whoopi has a better idea for getting rockets into space. And it's not using the gas coming out of her orifices. Here is this clip.
Put up with it.
Well,
and by the way, egg prices are supposed to come down, not airplanes.
Well, let me say someplace that could really
egg prices, not airplanes, at the View.
Use a lot of cutting. You know, Elon has very many, what do you call it?
Government contracts?
Yeah. I think, because I don't remember, maybe y'all heard it, but I don't remember looking for an armored car. I don't care what it looks like. I don't remember asking for it. I don't know why I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
I want to know.
What is she talking about?
When did I say, hey, we need another agency next to NASA? So
NASA can't fly anything. The only people putting stuff into the space orbit with any real poise and consistency is Elon.
When did we start paying for his stuff?
You talk about SpaceX overseeing FAA?
No. You know that he's going to be cutting NASA.
Yeah.
That's the competition. So what is the real deal here?
Money.
If we want to cut some money, let's cut some of these. I'm okay with that.
What is she talking about? All right, so they're still having a tough time over there on ABC News during their daytime TV segments. I don't even know what she's talking about. Elon may be making Cybertrucks for the military, or is it the military wanting or probably already having a parallel Starlink system, right? Elon has this Dyson sphere type of apparatus around the entire planet beaming internet to everybody. Surely the military has their own Skynet built out. So, I mean, look, if the government can put rockets up into orbit better than Elon can, the government should do it themselves, but they can't. They never will be able to do it. That's why Elon is so in need. Here is another reveal. Even MSNBC is talking about the $70 billion plus that got sent out to illegals.
There was an Inspector General audit last year that showed over an 8-year period, the Social Security Administration made almost $72 billion
Social Security
in improper payments, a little less than 1% of payments in that time period. Now, the
71
report
billion.
also says that most of these improper payments were overpayments, not payments to deceased people or people who didn't qualify to receive these payments. At the same time, Jose, this effort by Doge is to go through this agency like every other and try to weed out waste and fraud.
That is an insane amount of money. And I was looking for the timing on this. Is this a year? Is this 70 billion a year? That number is just such a big number. It's like $1 trillion plus on Social Security. I'm not expecting to ever get a dime of Social Security, even though we pay into it, and I've done it my whole life. But I'm not expecting it because the whole system is obviously just a giant Ponzi scheme that is probably going to fail unless Elon and Trump can fix it. But here was Caroline Leavitt explaining Trump, Doge, Elon, they are going to do everything possible to root out the fraud and to fix all of these institutions.
I've been fighting fake news reporters all day long here in the Washington, D.C. swamp who are trying to fearmonger the American people into believing that this administration is going after their hard-earned tax dollars and their hard-earned Social Security checks. So I want to set the record straight on your show tonight, Sean, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to do so. President Trump has directed Elon Musk and the Doge team to identify fraud at the Social Security Administration. They haven't dug into the books yet, but they suspect that there are tens of millions of deceased people who are receiving fraudulent Social Security payments. And so their goal in going into the Social Security Administration is to identify 3 things. Number 1, to identify duplicate payments and to end them. Number 2, to identify payments that are going to deceased people who are no longer living and should no longer be receiving that money. And number 3, to protect the integrity of this system for hardworking Americans who have been paying into it their entire lives. So rest assured, to all of the people watching your show tonight, if you paid into the system, honestly, you will continue to receive your Social Security checks. Do not buy into the lies from the legacy fake news media who are trying to fear you and scare you into believing otherwise. This is what we've seen them do about President Trump for years with every promise that he has made. And he's going in there to protect your hard-earned money. That is the ultimate goal.
And we're excited for them to do that so that they can salvage what is left of these institutions and hopefully reform them so they exist when the rest of us need them. But the Democrats are obstructing every inch of the effort, and Caroline Leavitt is explaining the truth. It's a shame they try to scare our seniors. They're going to take away all your Social Security, which is something that has never even been contemplated, right? They've actually been very consistent on this, that certain things will just not be touched, nor should they. So we'll keep our eye on this. Thank you for subscribing and joining as we do.